Welcome to tonight's webinar, How to Study the 12 Minor Prophets. And this is going to be an exciting training tonight. Don't forget to keep up with our calendar at LearnLogos.com/events. And all our training events are listed there for 2015. What are the upcoming webinars? Well, the next one is Monday, April 13th. Top 40 shortcuts for Logos 6. Then Monday, April 28th, we're going to return back to our theology series and talk about salvation. Very exciting. And then Monday, June 1st, how to observe any biblical text with Logos. Now, if you're wondering why there's no events in May, I'll be spending half the month up at seminary for my PhD. So I'm going to be a little busy during that time, and so I have to postpone the webinars till June. What is the purpose of a webinar? For those of you who are new, of course, first and foremost, we're going to provide you training for Logos Bible software. We're going to provide training so you can study the topic for yourself. This is key. There's no way in an hour, hour and a half that I can teach you everything about the minor prophets. But what I can do is set you up for success, put you in a position where you are guided, and then you can launch into your own personal study in the minor prophets. Along the way, of course, we're going to provide biblical insights related to the topic. And also, we're going to provide a personal book so you can equip yourself and others. So let me pull out that personal book so you can see that. So here's the personal book. And this one is really unique because of the nature of the prophets. Because, for example, I'll just show you here. Let me jump down to what I've done is I've grouped all the searches into the individual prophets. This makes it easier for you to find information and use the information. So all that's been embedded in the personal book, and the personal book is included free of charge with the purchase of the webinar. So we just throw the personal book in there as an extra item. So very excited to put in that extra time and effort to make sure that book is valuable for you. And then, so what are the topics tonight? Well, we're wrapping up the introduction as we get individuals to join us. We're going to talk about recommended resources because this is critical. Having the right books can go a long way in making this study much easier. We're going to start with step 1, getting organized with collections. Then we'll jump to step 2 and show you how to put them in chronological order. This is one of the key things that I learned that has so helped me put the study together is putting them in chronological order. So step 3, we're going to show you how to use introductions like surveys and handbooks. Step 4, we're going to show you how to get into the details of the books. Step 5, we're going to show you how to organize your notes. Step 6, we're going to talk about highlighting and labeling, how that is going to be a very important tool as you study the minor prophets. And then step 7, we're going to get into searching for additional details. So without further hesitation, let's jump in here and get into the program. All right, so first things first, let's talk about your library. And let's just start off with a real simple search that I think all of you will enjoy. It's easy to do, and it's a great way to get a handle on your current books in your library. So before you ever go out and buy another book, this is a search that I think you'll find very helpful. So let me move my personal book over to the right, and all I'm doing is dragging. And if you notice, there's a change in color. And when I move it to the far right, the right side is getting colored. That tells me that if I release my mouse, the book or resource is going to fill that space and that space only. So I'm going to release, and there it is to the right. So here's the search. It's pretty straightforward. We're going to go to search. So locate the search magnifying glass at the top. Click on basic. Notice that Logos gives you 6 search choices. We want to use basic. Now, I have a specific search criteria in here. I'm going to copy and paste that into the box so you can see that. Notice I'm using large text, quote, minor prophets, quote, then a space, all capital letters, or space heading, quote, minor space prophets, quote. So let's break this down. Large text and heading are these internal tags that Logos has used. They're typically seen on chapter headings or paragraph headings. By using these, we're not going to search for minor prophets in the paragraph. Instead, we're going to be looking for minor prophets as a heading to a paragraph, which means anything that comes back is going to be about the minor prophets. In other words, we could find minor prophets in a paragraph or two, but that article might be on something else. But if we can find an article that's titled or a paragraph that's titled Minor Prophets, then that's most likely going to be a significant article for our research. So that's why we use both, because sometimes Logos uses large text. Some books are tagged as heading, and if you don't use both, you will miss some search results. And then lastly, we put minor prophets in quotes. And that's just a good habit to get into. Even with single words, though, it's not necessary. Now let's go ahead and run that search and see what we get for results. Now you'll notice, and again, your library results will differ based on the number of books in your library. But here we got several hundred results in several hundred articles, and we have the resources. Now, when the results come back, depending on how you have set up your view, you have one of three choices: ranking, by resource, and by count. Ranking is the default, and this is just Logos saying, based on your search results, we believe these are the most important that should go first. I like this to look at the major headings very quickly and see what's going on. And notice that the headings are all included minor prophets, minor prophets, minor prophets. So you can see how these articles are going to be much more relevant. The second view option is by resource. Now, I like this when I'm trying to scan for a particular cover. I'm learning my books and I'm learning what they look like, and so I can scan quickly. Plus, it's a nice alphabetical list of all the resources. So keep that in mind as you look at the view. And so if you know it starts with the letter Z, you better just jump to the very end. Notice that commentaries are coming back as well. And for example, here we have a commentary in 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Now you wouldn't expect that to come back because it's not on the minor prophets. But if we expand the search results, we get an interesting article in another commentary. This is pretty significant search because what does 1st and 2nd Chronicles, or how does 1st and 2nd Chronicles shed light? And so here they have something mentioned, where it is in the canon, the form, meaning, etc. So very, very cool in how doing the book of Micah can get you additional information. So the Fat Book really is a one-stop shop all for a lot of information, and I've provided all the links there for you. Okay, scrolling down, the topic guide is going to give you additional information. So I've done this for all 12 of the prophets, and I've done it on the book of Hosea. So let me click on, let's scroll down to a different prophet. Let's do Nahum this time. We got a lot of information here. Topics, bookstores, light stock, etc. So we got the book of Nahum. We got the topic information. So taking us to encyclopedias and dictionaries, very similar. Related verses, very key. Illustrations, if there's any, no results. Media, like maps and charts. Media collections, nice little PowerPoint image we could use. Atlas didn't have any results. Biblical people didn't have results, etc. So I've opened up a reading list here, topics.LearnLogos.com, and we got the reading list on the book of Nahum. And so you can look through those. Pretty handy. So notice again that each resource that has duplicate information also has unique information that will make things a little bit easier. There's some nice media collections, etc. And I don't know why this feature only gives you the Spanish books, but nevertheless, hopefully that'll work in the future. And then Lightstock has got some basic images on Hosea you might find useful. Okay, and then there's a more button to get more images. This feature will only work if you are connected to the internet, so be aware of that. The timeline tool is very useful in Logos 6 as well. Now I'm going to go to Tools Timeline, and let's do Habakkuk this time. So I'm going to click on Habakkuk. And the timeline tool is going to open up. Now, it's put in some dates, but it's not really showing us anything. So you have to go in and actually put in Habakkuk. And after you enter his name and press enter, I recommend that you click Fit and pick the first option, Show All Matching Events. That will square you up with the timeline and allow you to see what's going on. So here we can see the prophetic career of Habakkuk. We can see when the book was written. We can also have some late dates, some Qumran manuscripts that were found that would represent the time period in which Habakkuk was alive, and so forth. Now, if you click on these options, you'll get additional links to more places. So recognize that the timeline is not just showing you dates, but it's going to take you to where those dates were mentioned in the book. So if we go to Habakkuk the person in the Tyndale Bible Dictionary, It's opened up here at the left. Here we go, the date. So the timeline is another useful tool to help you. And if you want to see all the prophets, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to the timeline. All right, we could do Habakkuk or Joel. And now we're getting both of those guys listed in here. So this is another way to kind of list one or more prophets in the timeline. And that'll help you get more of an understanding. Or Habakkuk and Jeremiah, see some there. Or how about Jonah? Let's try Jonah and see where he shows up in the timeline. So there's Habakkuk and there's Jonah. So Jonah was a little bit before, and then came along Habakkuk. So very, very cool. So the timeline is going to be useful for that. Another one is the media search. And I do treat this separately because there is a lot of charts and graphs and images that can be extremely valuable when you're dealing with this much information. So search, media search, and I just typed in minor prophets. Now we get back, media collections, and it's going to be all the prophets there. So there's Hosea, Malachi, Amos, Habakkuk, Haggai, and so forth. So those are all there. And by the way, if you click on them, let's click on Habakkuk, the visual copy tool opens up, which is basically an all-purpose tool to get images out from Logos into different PowerPoints. So for example, here's Habakkuk. Here's the theme. Let me see here. We could scroll down. Oh, there's a map that's related. Here's a timeline of Habakkuk. So these are images related, which is pretty cool. And there's the outline. We can actually change the images pretty cool. We can go to 16:9 or 4:3, make it a little bit easier. And you can send a PowerPoint by right-clicking and so forth. So very, very cool. Wonderful little tool, that visual copy. So let's close that down. And let's take a look at some other searches that came back, because this is really neat. So we got online results. In this case, none came back. But we have Atlas, none there. Here's some library results. Now you can see there's different images, there's people, there's just a lot of information. So what we can do is we can click on all media and narrow our search results. So let's look for diagrams and charts and infographics. That's pretty much all we want to find. Now we get more information, but it's just all these nice little handy graphs and charts. Now this is the structure of the book of Judges, not totally appropriate here, but minor prophets. Here we have the different manuscripts that were used to put the Bible together. Here we have, it looks like looks like some kind of family tree for different people in Rome. Not sure why those came back up. Let's go to this one, Apostle John. So we're getting everything on minor prophets. And I think it's just because minor prophets is not in quotes. If we put it in quotes, we're going to get a whole lot different search results. But if we put in Habakkuk, let's do that. Let's take a look at what kind of results we get. Okay, nothing there. Let's just go Habakkuk without that special information. And let's search for Habakkuk. Here we go. So now we've got a timeline that shows up. Let me maximize this for easy viewing. And so here's Ministry of Micah, Zephaniah. There it is, Habakkuk over at the far right. So this little handy-dandy timeline allows us to see what's going on. And this is the Standard Publishing's Bible Handbook in chronological order. Very helpful image there. What's this one over here? This is neat. The Kings and Prophets of the Divided Kingdom. Kind of a 3D image here. And so it can show you the years, the reign, who's the kings, who's the prophets, etc. And it looks like there's even a link to this other website to get even more. So very, very cool, helpful information. Go ahead and close some of these extra books down. Give us some additional space. Let me give you a couple more examples. This one was pretty neat that I thought was very useful. And it shows you the geography of where these guys came from. So let me zoom out a little bit here. I'm going to click on the resource panel. And I'm going to choose the little slider. And there we go. And so now we can see that Jonah was born in Gath-Hepher. There's Jonah's up here. Hosea was born here. Samuel here. So now you get to see the concentration of where the hometown is. And one thing becomes very clear. God put prophets everywhere in the land. They came from everywhere. So that can be very useful. And this came from Every Promise in the Bible by Larry Richard. Very helpful resource. Another example of a useful link here is the Minor Prophets with the biblical people diagram. So now we can look at their family tree. Where did they come from? What's unique about their parents? And then thirdly, we already looked at this one, the approximate dates of the prophets. That was that one infographic that we scanned right here. So we've already seen that one. Okay, so we close those resources. and expand our book. Now this next search is very important to know because it's going to help you find where the prophet is talking or where he is when his name is not mentioned as well as when his name is mentioned. So this is the advantage of the clause search. So search clause. Now when you do a clause search, you have to choose one of three Bibles. You have to choose the Greek New Testament, the Old Testament Hebrew, or the Septuagint. Now since we're dealing with the prophets, let's deal with them in the Old Testament. So let's go to a new guy. Let's go with Zechariah. Notice that if we type in person, Zechariah, a list comes up. And notice the icons at the right. The icons are very informative. This is a person. So let's go with Zechariah the prophet. So we pick him, we run a search, and now every place he's mentioned by name or by pronoun, or if he's speaking, will now appear in the list. This will help us find if Zechariah is mentioned elsewhere. For example, in Ezra 5:1, when the prophets, Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo, prophesied to the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of God of Israel, who was over them, and then the story continues. So Ezra is talking about Zechariah and Haggai. Very cool. I love seeing that cross-reference, and this will allow you to find every place where he's mentioned. So there's Ezra 5:2. Then we get to Nehemiah was mentioned. Then, of course, we expect Zechariah to show up in the Zechariah books. Now, if you want to find out if they're mentioned in the New Testament, all you got to do is go up here and click on SBL Greek New Testament. And if Zechariah is mentioned in the New Testament, we'll see the search results in just a few moments. And sure enough, we've got Matthew 23:35, Luke 11, and 51. So from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, one of the prophets, who was killed between the altar and the house of God. Yes, I tell you, it should be charged against this generation. Now, even though that wasn't mentioned in the Old Testament, we get this New Testament insight. And this New Testament insight can be found so easily by using the clause search, by searching on the person. So be aware of that. And again, for all the prophets, I've included those in the personal book. Tons of information, very overwhelming, but staying organized is the key. Now, I've also created a collection called Surveys, Introductions, and Handbooks. And those are all included here with a special rule. Now that is so that you can search these books and only these books. So let me do